Welcome to my YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.
Welcome to the continuation of our discussion for the revised implementing rules and regulations of BP344 or the accessibility law. So this is part 2 of a 4-part series on BP344. So for this particular part, we are going to discuss the requirements for drop sidewalk, the curb ramp, the walkways, sidewalks, street crossings. Also, we have accessible parking requirements, signage and wayfinding, requirements for inside buildings and structures, and that will be about the entrances, doors, and corridors requirements. So let's start with the requirements outside and around buildings, and this will be about the drop curb or the drop sidewalk. We also have the curb ramp or the curb cutout, and we also have the walkway, sidewalks, and street crossings requirements. Now for the drop sidewalks, it shall be provided at pedestrian crossings and at the end of walkways of a private street or access. For crossings and walkways less than 1.5 meters in width, the base level surface at the bottom of the ramp shall have a minimum depth of 1.5 meters with a width corresponding to the width of the crossing. So if this is the width of the crossing, the same. And for crossings and walkways less than 1.5 meters in width, the base level surface at the bottom of the ramp shall have the minimum width corresponding to the width of the crossing, this one. It will be 4 meters minimum for national roads and as mandated by local ordinances for local roads. The drop sidewalk shall be sloped towards the road with a maximum cross gradient of 1:100 or 1% to prevent water from collecting. So previously the requirement is to 1:20 gradient, but the new requirement now is 1:100. The difference in elevation between the base level area of a drop sidewalk from the road or gutter shall not exceed more than 19 mm. This difference in elevation previously is 25 mm, but now revised to 19 mm. And for street crossings, a median island of at least 1.5 meters in depth or preferably 2 meters shall be provided at the pedestrian refuge here, where the width of carriageway to be crossed exceeds 10 meters. So this is the width of the carriageway, 10 meters or more, or at least 4 lanes. The pedestrian crossing shall not be located at street corners, but at a minimum distance of 2 meters from the corner. So this is the corner, 2 meters. The drop sidewalks shall be provided with directional tactile strips in the immediate vicinity of crossings as aid to persons with visual disabilities. So you have here directional, positional tactile blocks as well as warning tactile blocks. The curb ramps shall only be allowed when it will not obstruct a sidewalk walkway or in any way lessen the width of a sidewalk walkway or lessen the level turning area of 1.5 by 1.5. So this type of a curb ramp can only be allowed if the sidewalk is wide enough to afford this kind of turning space, 1.5 by 1.5. The curb ramp shall have a gradient not steeper than 1:15. The old provision was 1:12, so now it's 1:15, so this is the gradient here. And always provide this minimum 1.5 meters minimum level turning area. The curb ramp shall only be allowed if the width of sidewalks or walkways are more than 3.3 meters with a corresponding curb height of 150 millimeters. This one is the height, at least 150 millimeters. Otherwise, drop sidewalks shall be used if the sidewalk width is less than this width of 3.3 meters. For drop-off points for persons with disabilities at loading bays, the minimum width of a curb ramp, this one shall be 900 mm. Now for the drop sidewalk and curb ramp sign, a pole-mounted signage 600 mm by 600 mm in size and mounted at a minimum clear height of 2.2 meters from the sidewalk floor. Pole-mounted signs planted shall not obstruct the path of pedestrians. The pavement sign painted or marked on the ramp shall be square, at least 600 mm for ramps less than 1.2 meters wide if the ramp width is narrow. But the dimension of this pavement sign can be 800 mm, not more than 800 mm if the ramp is wider than is 1.2 meters or wider, and this should be located at the center of the ramp. Whenever and wherever possible, sidewalks and walkways shall have a gradient not steeper than 1:20 or 5%. Now for sidewalks and walkways, it shall have a maximum cross gradient of 1:100 or 1%. Here is the gradient for 1:100. The sidewalks, walkways, and pathways shall have a minimum width of 1.5 meters, and where space is required for 2 wheelchairs to pass, the minimum width shall be 1.8 meters. So 1.5 minimum, but for 2 wheelchairs, it shall be at 1.8 meters. Now the turning spaces shall have a minimum clear dimension of 1.8 meters and shall be spaced at a maximum distance of 12 meters between rest stops. If the walkway is less than 1.8 meters. The old provision will have a turning space of 1.5 by 1.5. So now the requirement is much bigger, 1.8 by 1.8, following the standard turning space for wheelchair now at 1.8 by 1.8. Now for pathways, walkways, and sidewalks using paver blocks, you have to provide a minimum 1.2 meters wide concrete wheelchair lane so that it is not very difficult for wheelchairs to make use of that lane because of the rough surfaces of paver blocks. Now, in the presence of support pillars, columns, or other barriers along walkways or pathways, a minimum clearance of at least 900 mm shall be maintained for unobstructed passage. So any access way, passageway, or pathways at least 900 mm shall be maintained as unobstructed passage. Now for sidewalk walkway headroom, it shall not be less than 2.2 meters and preferably higher. So if you have sloping or any surface that is not flat, then the 2.2 minimum headroom shall be maintained and provide the necessary barrier so that the lower headroom shall not be used. Any obstructions also should be maintained with a clearance of 2.2 meters. So the old provision before was 2 meters. Now for obstacles, projections, or other protrusions, that is fire hose, extinguisher cabinets, these shall all be avoided. Now protruding objects shall not exceed more than 100 mm from any wall surface below 2 meters above the finished floor line. And a detectable topping rail positioned between 400 mm to 580 mm above the floor. This one shall be provided in areas with headrooms of 2 meters or less adjoining the accessible route. If possible, grating shall never be located along sideways or walkways. When occurring along sidewalks or walkways, grills of grating opening shall be perpendicular to line of travel, or must have a maximum clear spacing of 13 mm between members each way, and not be projected nor be recessed more than 6 mm above or below the level of the sidewalk or walkway. Sidewalks and walkways shall have a continuing surface without abrupt pitches in angle or interruptions by cracks or breaks creating edges above 6 mm. The old provision is 6.5, so now only 6 mm. When there is a direct drop of 200 mm or more along the access route, an edge protection at least 100 mm in height and 100 mm in width shall be provided. So this is another possible way to provide an edge protection, providing railings with a height of 1.1 meters. Bollards along the accessible roads shall have a minimum clear distance of 900 mm between bollards so that the wheelchair can pass through. They shall not be linked with a chain or rope. Bollards shall have a minimum height of 800 mm. Now let us go to the parking requirements. For the number of parking slot requirement, here is the table provided, wherein if you have up to 25 parking slots, you need at least one accessible parking slot. So the passenger with disability shall be inside the vehicle to be allowed to use the accessible parking slots. So if you follow this table, it will show that if you have already around 500 or up to 1,000, 501 up to 1,000 parking spaces, at least 2% of that shall be required for the parking space for PWDs. Now, the parking slot for persons with disabilities shall allow enough space for a person to transfer from a vehicle to a wheelchair. So this is what you call the wheelchair transfer area, with a minimum width of 1.5 meters. Now, the accessible parking slot shall have a minimum width of 4 meters and a length of 5 meters. The 4 meters is the 2.5 regular parking slot width plus the 1.5 meters width for the wheelchair transfer area. Previously, the old provision is 3.7 by 5 meters. Now it became wider, 4 meters by 5 meters. Now, a walkway with a minimum clear width of 1.2 meters shall be provided between the front ends of the parked cars. Now, the drop sidewalks or curb ramps leading to the parking level where access walkways are raised. So if this is raised, then you have to provide this drop sidewalk or curb ramps. A pavement marking and fixed pole mounted signage shall be provided between 2 or more accessible parking slots. So if you have a parking slot here, you have this pavement marking as well as a fixed pole mounted signage. The pole-mounted parking space shall be 600 mm by 600 mm in size and mounted at a minimum clear height of 2.2 meters from the parking floor. The pavement sign, painted or marked on the designated lot, shall be a square with dimensions of at least 1 meter, but not more than 1.5 meters, located in the center of the accessible parking space. So minimum is 1 and the maximum is 1.5 meters. Now, for signage and wayfinding requirements, let us look at the provision for the use of the International Symbol of Access or ISA, and it shall be composed of a white symbolized figure of a person in a wheelchair with a square background with the United Nations blue background color or Pantone 279/5B92E5. Graphic, text, and braille signage on walls and doors shall be installed at a maximum height of 1.5 meters from the finished floor to the center of the sign. So previously, the old provision is the bottom and top of the sign. Now it's at the center of the wall-mounted sign as well as the door-mounted signage. The size of the door-mounted signage for accessible toilets and showers shall be 200 mm by 200 mm. Also the same here for door-mounted signage. General note that wall and door-mounted signs shall be not less than 200 mm by 200 mm in size. Signage labeling public rooms, areas, and places shall have tactile symbols and letters or numbers that shall be embossed with a minimum height of 1 mm, and the braille symbol shall be incorporated in signs indicating public places as well as safety routes. For a sign that protrudes into a sidewalk, walkway, or road, a minimum vertical clearance of 2.2 meters shall be provided. Obstacles, projections, or other protrusions shall be avoided in pedestrian areas such as sidewalks, walkways, halls, corridors, passageway, or aisles. Now, for the tactile floor surfaces, these are the characteristics to be used. First, for directional tactile blocks, we have here the minimum size is 300 mm by 300 mm, and it should be the raised element shall be along the direction of the travel path. At least 4 raised elements, parallel raised bars. It is 34 mm wide, and the height of the raised elements is 5 mm. Now for the warning tactile block, also the dimension is 300 by 300 mm, perpendicular to the direction of travel, and at least 25 5 by 5 raised elements, 25 of these, and it is truncated domes arranged in a square grid, 35 mm diameter, and the raised element is 5 mm high. For the positional tactile block, also the same size, 300 mm by 300, it is laid at the chains in travel direction. Again, at least 25 of these truncated domes, and arranged in staggered position versus tactile blocks which are arranged in a square grid. The diameter here is smaller, only 23 mm diameter for the raised element, but the height is still the same, 5 mm. Now the directional tactile block shall be installed at free and unobstructed walkways, sidewalks, or pathways. And the tactile floor surfaces shall also be situated at a minimum clear width of 600 mm away from tripping hazards, walls, columns, and other elements that may cause confusion. We now go to the requirements inside buildings and structures. Building entrances with vestibules shall be provided with a level area with at least 1.8 meters width and 1.8 meters depth. All doors shall have a minimum clear width of 900 mm. The old provision is 800 mm. The clear opening shall be measured from the face of a fully open door at 90 degrees and the door jamb. For double lift doors, the minimum clear width shall be 1.8 meters. Now, a minimum clear level space of 1.8 meters by 1.8 meters shall be provided before and extending beyond a door. So you have this at the inside and at the outside of the door opening. Maintain that wheelchair turning space of 1.8 by 1.8. Before the turning space is 1.2 by 1.2 meters. So if you have here a door opening, also the 1.8 by 1.8 clear space shall be provided, and along the path provide also a minimum turning space of 1.8 meters, and at the outside of the door again the clear space of 1.8 by 1.8. Where a door shall open onto but not into a corridor, the required clear level space on the corridor side of the door, this one shall be a minimum of 1.5 meters corridor width. So if the corridor width is 1.5 meters, then that level area can be 1.5 meters. If you have a sliding door wherein the clear space left when the door opens, like this one, we go back to this one, when the door is opening to that side, you must maintain this minimum width of the corridor at 1.5 meters, so that is the unobstructed width, and also provide a protection from outswinging doors, so that blind persons will have a way to avoid this obstruction. Door handles, pulls, latches, and lever-type lock sets or doorknobs shall be at 900 mm centered above floor finish level. The old provision is ranging from 0.82 to 1.06 meters. Now it is centered at 0.9 meters or 900 mm, including vertical door pulls at the center also is 900 mm above the floor. These are preferred to horizontal door pulls for swing doors or doors with locking devices. Doors along major circulation routes shall be provided with kick plates made of durable materials at a height of 300 mm to 400 mm. Now for doors with peepholes, provide a secondary peephole at a height of 1 meter from the finished floor for wheelchair users. And that is below the usual level for the main peephole. A vision panel shall be installed in all entrances along the accessible paths unless privacy or security concerns are an issue. Now the vision panel shall be installed with bottom edge here not more than 0.9 meters and the top edge not less than 1.5 meters above the finished floor level. Now the width of the vision panel shall not be less than 100 mm. Now if a door is a frameless full-height glass door, markings shall be placed across on the glass door such that at least a portion of the marking is placed between 900 mm and also 1.5 meters above the finished floor. The markings or motifs shall consist of 2 horizontal bands, each at least 100 mm high, and of contrasting colors to assist visibility. Now, if you have automatic doors provided with manual button controls to be operated by users, they shall be located adjacent to a clear floor space that has a minimum width of 900 mm and shall be positioned at a height between 0.9 and 1.2 meters from the floor level. So this is an automatic door with manual button controls. The threshold shall be kept to a minimum, so whenever necessary, thresholds and sliding door track shall have a maximum height of 12 mm and shall be beveled if higher than 6 mm. So this one is beveled if this is higher than 6 mm. The manual switches shall be installed 0.9 up to 1.2 meters on center above the floor from the center line of the switch plate to the finished floor. The manual switches also shall be located 200 mm from on center from the latch side of the door. The old provision is that the height is 0.92 to 1.22 meters. Now it was simplified to 0.9 to 1.2 meters. So corridors shall have a minimum clear width of 1.5 meters to allow a wheelchair user and a person without disabilities to pass. So which means that the minimum width for a corridor wherein one wheelchair user and a person without disability will use should be at 1.5 meters. Now the turnabout spaces shall be provided for wheelchairs to turn around. Of course, our dimension for the turn around space for wheelchair is 1.8 by 1.8 meters. So if you have a dead end, it should be located at the dead end. These turning spaces shall be spaced at a maximum of 12 meters. So for every 12 meters corridor, we have to provide this turn around space. The turnabout space also can be located from the dead end at 3.5 meters. So that's it for our part 2 of our discussion on the updates on BP344. So watch out for my succeeding videos for part 3 and part 4 of this series.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.